What's up, my peeps? Welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Frenzy 2.0 podcast. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And I'm the conquistador, Dave Height. Well, beat the drums and hold the phone. The sun came out today.
That's right. This is the 31st. Tomorrow, April the 1st, is not only April Fool's Day, but it is opening day for Major League Baseball.
Yes, new grass on the field, kids. Optimism reigns supreme across the land.
And to give you a little background, since this is really the first time we've really got to dig into baseball, and we're going to take this first part of our podcast, this first segment, and talk about our panel's predictions for the upcoming season. I am a dyed-in-the-wool, true blue Cubs fan, and my compadre here is a major White Sox fan, so you can imagine how the next few months are going to go with baseball discussions.
It's going to be ugly, kids.
No, I am fully committed to the fact that the Cubs are going to suck and the White Sox are going to be good. So I am nothing if not a humble Cubs fan. I don't get into this whole Cubs-White Sox bitterness. I never have. I never will. I don't get it.
It's fun to tweak you once in a while with it, though.
Yeah, well, this year you'll be able to tweak. You'll be able to tweak and twerk all over me, man. Because I'm telling you, this is just setting up to be a disaster. I'll get into that later. Probably end up saving it for my Red Foreman dumbasses of the week segment. But all right, so the weather tomorrow in a lot of parts of the country not going to be nice.
No, it's going to be pretty brutal.
So once again, we're going to probably have issues with some of these teams either playing in unbelievably cold weather or not being able to play at all. And again,
snow flurries, rain.
Yep. And again, every year this comes up now. Everybody asks, why in holy hell didn't Minnesota put a dome on their field? Yeah, it's going to be unbearable to play baseball up there in April, and God forbid if they get into the postseason. It's just going to be unbearable in October and April. I don't understand it. By all accounts, it's a beautiful field, you know.
Yeah, it looks April, nice on TV.
Yeah, in April, it's just going to be white. Yeah. But okay, so what we do here at Sports Frenzy, we have 5 competitions that we run throughout the year. And an overall champion, whoever finishes on average the best in all of those 5 competitions, gets our overall Penta Frenzy Master Champion Trophy.
Yep.
So what I want to do this week is we've talked in the past few podcasts about our NASCAR picks, and we talked a little bit about our brackets and who we picked. I'm going to go into a little more detail this week now that we've got 3 of our contests going at the same time, so you guys kind of understand what we're talking about, especially with baseball. It's a little bit more nuanced than maybe the other 2 are, the brackets for March Madness and our NASCAR picks. So before I start getting into our panelists' picks for who's going to make the World Series, who's going to win the whole thing, MVPs and all that, we do 26 weeks of the baseball season. You get to pick a team no more than twice during the season, and basically you get 1 point per win. Week goes from Monday to Sunday.
Yep.
Except
All-Star Week
and this opening week.
This opening week
will actually go from tomorrow, the 1st, through Sunday, the 11th. And then we shorten All-Star Week to just the 3 or 4 days that weekend after the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's always Monday to Sunday. So we call our trophy Morning Wood. And if I have to explain that to you, then
you got issues.
Yes, you're obviously a nun, or you're a very, very young pup who doesn't understand what morning wood means. Or maybe you do. Maybe you've had a little steroids in your Cocoa Puffs. I don't know. But let's discuss our panelists. Our 8 panelists have got their picks in, which was great. I try to give them till Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. We usually end up taping, Dave and I, a little bit before that. So got everything in.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what I'm seeing right off the bat,
Do you
Dave.
want to go our tiebreakers or our week 1 picks?
Let's do the tiebreakers
All right.
first. But that's kind of our tiebreakers. Those are our season predictions. So for you out there in podcast land, you're probably going to be more interested right now in the tiebreakers, like Dave said, because that's more like our 8 people in Sports Frenzy picking the major awards and who's going to win the whole damn thing. So I'm seeing in the National League a lot of love, as expected, for the Dodgers.
It's hard to go against them.
It would have to
They're
a little bit fluky. There would have to be something a little bit fluky to happen. Now the Padres look strong.
Yeah, but you still have to get through the Dodgers with that pitching staff.
Yep. So of our 8 panelists, 7 of us took the Dodgers to win the National League. Mrs. C took the Cardinals. They've got Arenado now, so not a bad pick. I would say their pitching might be a little suspect.
That's going to be their downfall.
Yep. Now we go to the American League, and it's clear cut. There are 2 teams that we're basically honing in on.
Yeah.
And, of course, who's the one that 5 of us picked, Dave?
My boys,
Well,
the Southside White Sox.
Yeah, I shouldn't say us because that doesn't include me.
No.
No.
You and Nick go to the Evil Empire.
Yeah, and I told you in our pre-show warm-up why I did that. It was the Eloy Jimenez injury. That's why I flipped the 2.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out, the Yankees are no stranger to injuries. So
no, they've got two teacups sitting out there that they've got to worry about in Judge and Stanton.
Yep, one they're paying a crap ton of money to, and one they're probably going to have to pay a crap ton of money to. But I honestly think that their window is going to be closing here soon. So I think if the Yankees are going to do it, they got to get it done either this year or next year.
Yeah, because they've got so many young guys coming down the line that they're either going to have to pay or let go.
Exactly.
Or make some tough decisions on some of the veterans they have.
But the thing is, this isn't the NFL.
That's true. They'll just pay the luxury tax and be done with it.
Yeah. That's a discussion for another day, of course, about how baseball needs to, number 1, put a hard cap in, and number 2, start thinking about somehow paying players for performance instead of for potential or
past performance.
Yeah, because we'll get to that, another Red Foreman moment for me coming up later on. So for the World Series champion, Dodgers, White Sox, and Yankees seem to be the popular picks. I've got 5 Dodgers, a couple White Sox, and a Yankees, which doesn't shock me a bit.
No, those are probably 3 of your 4 best teams right there. You probably have to include the Padres coming out of the NL as your 4th.
Yeah, and the only problem with the Padres is they're, I don't want to use the profanity. Oh, what the hell? They're cock-blocked by the Dodgers.
Yeah.
We're going to be explicit on,
exactly.
Labeled explicit anyway. So
then you got Atlanta.
I can't think of any other way to put it.
Atlanta could rear their ugly head.
Yeah, Atlanta always seems to kind of be pesky.
Yeah.
Now for MVPs in the National League, Dave, you and Aaron agreed on who you think is going to be MVP.
Going with
Mr. Acuna.
Acuna, yep. Mr. Atlanta.
Yep, from the Braves. One of the 3 really good young players in the league. I went with the one that just got paid. I went with Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr.
That still grates on me.
So, yeah, I know he could.
White Sox traded him for frickin' James Shields. Could have been on the
South Side.
Gah.
So, might be a year early to pick him as MVP, but I just really have a good feeling about the Padres this year. Not necessarily to win it all, obviously, since I took the Dodgers, but I think somehow they're going to get through that wild card game, and it's going to end up being somehow Dodgers-Padres at some point in the playoffs. A lot of Mookie Betts love.
It's
not shocking.
No.
Not shocking. The only thing that kept me from picking Mookie Betts was that the Dodgers are so loaded. I don't know how you can pick him over Bellinger. You got Justin Turner. You got so many guys in that lineup that could put up numbers.
Yeah, it's
kind of like
spread the wealth.
You got a team
of them.
Spread the wealth,
Yeah.
And then the governor, Doug, went with Javi Baez.
Wow.
he's usually a Cubs homer, but it shocked me when I saw he didn't put the Cubs as National League champ. But then he had to sneak Baez in for MVP. Baez, he might be MVP,
he could be
but
the best player on that team.
Well, the thing is, he could be MVP, but he could be somebody else by the time the trade deadline rolls around.
Yeah.
Okay, the AL MVP kind of. This bothers me.
That everybody jumped on.
Everybody's still jumping on a Mike Trout bandwagon every year. Oh, it's got to be Mike Trout.
It doesn't have to be Mike Trout.
We've got 5 of our 8 that took Mike Trout.
Ugh.
And the other 3 of us took White Sox players. Mrs. C and I took Jose Abreu.
Trying to go back to back.
And I think with Eloy out, that's going to help his cause.
That could. I'm going with Tim Anderson.
And I am thinking that Abreu will be knocking Tim Anderson in a lot.
So Tim will be setting the table.
Yeah, NL Cy Young to me was, you threw me a curveball on this, man. You really did. To me, it was a no-brainer. Jacob deGrom. And we've got, 5 of us took deGrom.
Yep, I went out on a limb with Castillo.
And I'm like, what? And then Jen, of course, now that he's not with the Cubs, takes Yu Darvish. And then Doug, probably a year or 2 past where he would be a serious contender, but I do love him, Max Scherzer. So, that Luis Castillo one, it was, really, no pun intended, threw me a curveball there. Yeah.
As intended.
Yeah. Now, AL Cy Young, again, typical suspects. You got a couple Shane Biebers, couple Lucas Giolito's, 3 Garrett Coles. I think this proves Doug didn't do any research on this.
He went with Chris Sale.
Sale's not even pitching the first part of the year, is he?
No. He's still recovering from his Tommy John.
This is why the guy doesn't show up for our semi-annual meetings. We give him grief, and then he pulls a boner like this.
There you go.
But as I mentioned, we do our weekly contest, so I'll real quick run down the picks for you, just so you know who we're taking in week 1. The Conquistador and I, great minds think alike. So we are taking the Padres.
Yep, you have to keep in mind the weather at this time of year. And it was a very favorable homestand for the first opening series.
Absolutely agree. Sam and Bill were the first 2 to get their picks in, and they both picked the Dodgers even before I could take a look at the upcoming schedule. So that kind of worried me. I was thinking if both of them are jumping on the Dodgers, the Dodgers must have some kind of really easy schedule. And I looked and I said, well, they're playing Oakland. That could be a little tricky. And they had the same number of games as San Diego. And like you said, the Padres really aren't doing a lot of traveling. They got a homestand back-to-back, and then they
go down to Texas.
Yeah. So I'm glad we went with San Diego on that. Nick took the Yankees. Okay. They got the Blue Jays right off the bat.
Could be tough for them.
Yeah, the only thing is George Springer is going to start the year on the IL, so their best player is not going to be in the lineup. Doug and Aaron took the Cubs. Okay, they're playing the Pirates early on, so I think that's why they went with the Cubs.
Yeah.
And then Mrs. C must have some kind of inside info I don't know about because she's taking the Tigers.
I have no idea. No clue.
But there you go. There's our MLB preview.
Getting a bad team out of the way early that they might strike gold.
Yeah, then that's the thing. That's one of the strategy things you got to do in our games where we limit your number of picks. Like we'll talk about NASCAR later where we have limits on our picks too. You know, you can't take the Dodgers every week. You can't take the Yankees every week. So at some point over 26 weeks, you're going to have to take a marginal team and look at, like you said, weather considerations, road games versus home games.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of insight into the strategy we have to do with these games.
And then All-Star Week, you just take one of the worst teams who has a semi-favorable matchup.
Yeah, you don't really want to burn a good team like a Yankees or Dodgers team
on a three
even if they have an
week.
Easy team they're playing, but it's only 3 or 4 games. So as I mentioned earlier, don't want to push the dagger in further into the chest of the Conquistador, but Eloy Jimenez, one of the best young players in baseball.
One of our best hitters, out 6 months preseason, tried to make a leaping grab over the wall, tore a pectoral tendon, just had surgery, 6 months gone. Should get him back in time for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be fine. I think the American League is a little bit weak, so I think that loss, if that's the only major loss the White Sox suffer, they'll be fine. Again, I told you, worst case scenario, they get in a wild card. If the Twins somehow win the
wheels
division,
roll off, and
that's the only other team I could see winning the division.
Yeah.
Cleveland, I looked at Cleveland's lineup, and they're almost in rebuild mode because you take away Jose Ramirez and Shane Bieber, and they're really not that much better than the Pirates.
No, they're not.
Because
And then
they
the
got rid of
Tigers are
Lindor.
in a rebuild mode.
Kansas
the Royals
City,
are always in a rebuild mode.
Well, Kansas City made a couple of interesting moves. I don't think they're necessarily tanking. I mean, they've still got Salvador Perez. They're taking a flyer on Andrew Benintendi. So I could see them finishing third. I really could. No higher than
They
that.
could.
No higher than that, though. I think
they're going to be enough to be a thorn in the division
right.
for both the Twins and the Sox.
Right. The West, the AL West, I think the Astros win by default. Maybe Oakland could win it.
They could sneak in there.
Just because Verlander's, just like Chris Sale, is not going to be available for a major part of the season.
Yeah.
And we talked about the East. The Yankees,
the
probably the
Yankees.
Yankees. Blue Jays could be good. Red Sox, I don't think right now are ready to
They're
contend
not
again.
there. And you'd never know with the Rays.
Yeah, the Rays are scrappy. So we'll see. Kevin Cash is an unbelievable manager, so I imagine a couple of years he'll pull a Joe Madden and move on to greener pastures.
Yeah.
Then in the National League, the East is probably the most interesting.
East is going to be tough.
Because all those teams, the Marlins were surprisingly good last year, and I don't see any reason why they can't be at least 500.
Yeah.
Mattingly's not a bad manager. They got some decent young talent. The Mets could go win 100 games or could lose 100 games. I don't have a lot of faith in their manager.
No.
Nats, same way.
Nats are just kind of, they plug along.
Yeah.
Phillies.
Again, they seem to be like a team that likes to hover around 500 all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Despite Harper, so it's almost Atlanta.
Well, yeah, Atlanta, I would say they're probably the favorites.
Yeah.
The West, we've already talked about Dodgers, Padres. I don't think we need to talk about that anymore.
No.
I told you the Cubs are going to suck. I would imagine the Cardinals win the division. Maybe the Brewers. Maybe.
Don't discount the Brewers.
But again, it comes down to pitching, and I don't know what kind of pitching the Brewers really have. Woodruff is their ace.
The Cardinals don't have the pitching either.
They got Flaherty, and that's about it. I know. But it's so hard, unless you're the Yankees or the Dodgers, where you can pay 3-4 quality starters.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you got to have one and kind of put something together piecemeal around them.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's our baseball preview, kids. We're going to be right back. That's the end of our first segment, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of a promo here where the Conquistador is going to tell you about our Spotify exclusive Weekend Edition. We'll be right back.
Good evening, kids. This is the Conquistador, David Height.
And the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
Tune in to Sports Frenzy 2.0 Weekend Edition, exclusively on Spotify and Anchor, as we regale you with news and reviews of films, literature, fine music, and television. Remember what Groucho Marx once said, "I find television very educating. Every time somebody turns on the set, I go into the other room and read a book."
Welcome back to Sports Frenzy 2.0. It's time to talk some March Madness here with the Conquistador Dave Hyde. I am the Maestro Kevin Crane.
Final fours are set.
Baylor, Houston, Gonzaga, and quote-unquote Cinderella UCLA. Houston, I want to bring this up real quick. I don't know how many people know this. Had the easiest path ever to the Final Four as they beat 15 seed, a 10 seed, an 11 seed, and a 12 seed. So I don't know how that bodes for them going up against the mighty Baylor.
Yeah, well, the way Illinois laid an egg.
Yeah, which destroyed all our brackets. Oh, by the way, real quick, I do want to continue the theme we've been continuing here through this episode of talking about our contests that we do here at Sports Frenzy. Our March Madness contest where we all fill out brackets. Pretty basic. You get the game right, you get a point. It's not weighted, so you don't get more points as you go through to the Final Four in the championship. So right now it looks like the Elder Statesman is going to win ours. He's pretty much locked it up.
Yeah, he's got the Frenzy Madness trophy.
So he's going to take that away from the Big Blue W, who has had it, I think, for 3 years now, if you count the COVID shutdown year.
Yeah.
So good for Sam. Bad for the rest of us, although I have to admit, going 0-4 to start in the first four, I came back and did okay.
Yeah. Bill started out 4-0 and fell back.
Yeah, so usually it doesn't work that way. Usually if you get a good start in the first four, you do pretty good and you end up at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of odd this year with all those early upsets.
And got to give it to UCLA for running it from the play-in game.
Yeah, and they were really. I watched all the games in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, as opposed to the weekend before where I pretty much ignored everything. And really the only exciting games were the ones UCLA was in. So yeah, props to them. They have had a magnificent run. I think it's going to end with Gonzaga because Gonzaga just looks like a monster. You know.
Yeah.
They look like they could do the undefeated run.
Could quite possibly. We'll see if Baylor can get by that pesky Houston team.
Yeah, but again, how do you judge Houston based on the fact that they beat up on 4 double-digit seeds?
Yeah.
That's going to make them kind of an enigma. From what I've seen of them, I'm not overly impressed. I think Baylor will handle them. I think we're going to get the inevitable showdown between Baylor and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
They've been the top 2 teams all year, so it shouldn't shock anybody.
It would serve Houston right for having one of those hated retread coaches.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. I've been ripping on Rick Pitino and Jim Boeheim, and somehow I forgot about how Kelvin Sampson destroyed the Indiana program.
Yeah, another Mr. Violation winds up landing on his feet again after destroying a storied program.
Yeah, but speaking of Indiana, they have a new head coach. Mike Woodson has come in on a 6-year deal to take over the Hoosiers program.
Yeah, coming back home to Bloomington. Former player under Bobby Knight. Done some coaching over the last several years in the NBA, so we'll see how that translates.
Yeah, IU, just like UCLA to a certain extent. I mean, I'm talking about a Final Four team, so it's going to sound a little ridiculous, but they're not the programs they were back in the 70s. Those were the 2 greatest programs out there, Indiana and UCLA.
Yeah, even IU through the 80s.
Right. Keith Smart and Bobby Knight, of course. But they've just run through some bad coaches, some bad recruiting. I still don't know what Tom Crean did that was so terrible to get him booted out, but
he was too mediocre for him.
Yeah.
He ran a clean program, but he didn't take him to the elite level.
Right. And there's an NBA type mentality now permeating college basketball where as in years past, in decades past, you would have maybe had 5, 6, 7 years to get the job done. Now you better get some noticeable improvement going within 2 to 3.
Yeah. Otherwise, start looking for another job.
Yep. Now, Dave, you were talking about this before we started taping today. There was controversy on the women's side.
We do. We've got the women's Final Four set. South Carolina versus Stanford, and then Arizona against the questionably winning Connecticut. So Baylor got screwed 7 ways from Sunday in the closing seconds of that game against Connecticut. Horrible no call. Baylor's guard fouled by 2 Husky players at the same damn time. She tried to make the shot. The ball was not touched by anybody. The Husky players hit her in the face, on the elbow, and knocked her to the ground. Play on was the call. Absolutely ridiculous. And this was Baylor trailing by 1 at that point. Connecticut gets the possession, and there's a foul called. And they go to the line and hit 1 of 2 to win 69-67.
And of course, the one team on the women's side that doesn't deserve to get any more breaks than they've gotten over the past years and decades is UConn. Yeah. Everything always falls right for UConn. And here we go.
Here we go again. And
Yep.
Gino's, it is what it is, and we didn't get calls early, blah, blah, blah. You talk about somebody with an ego the size of frickin'
Connecticut.
Asia.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is...
This is what happens. We've talked about this on the men's side. In the women's side, it happens too. You had Pat Summitt years ago. I know she's passed. I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but
and let's face it, Baylor's coach isn't.
Yeah, Kim Mulkey.
She's not above reproach.
Yeah, she's getting there too. But it's something about college basketball coaches and college football coaches too. They build up these little fiefdoms, these little kingdoms, and they think they are the ruler of all that they survey. And God forbid somebody, whether it's a referee, whether it's a faculty member, whether it's somebody from the alumni association, crosses their path and disagrees with them.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord, you better forget it.
I'm all in favor for letting the players play, but when it's that an egregious of a foul, it has to be called.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, 3 fouls on that play, basically.
Even before she got knocked to the ground, she was coming down, and another Connecticut player grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away, and that wasn't called, and then this happened. So, yeah, it was ridiculous.
Well, we don't normally talk about the NBA, but we're going to stick with basketball here because I got a couple things to rant and rave about as we close out the second segment here this week. My team, the Orlando Magic, I did live outside of Orlando for 10 years, so they are my team. Have decided to just blow everything up completely. They've imploded.
Again?
Traded Nikola Vucevic to the Bills, traded Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets, traded Evan Fournier to the Celtics. So they're going to be miserable for a long, long time, it looks like. Unless another LeBron James comes out in the draft and they happen to get the winning ping pong ball. But on the flip side, as the Magic tear their team down and just give out all their assets to anybody who wants them for a bowl of soup and a pack of Tic Tacs, you got the haves. As the Magic are the have-nots, the Lakers and the Nets are the haves.
And they continue to become the haves.
Yeah. So the Spurs cut ties with LaMarcus Aldridge. I know he's older. He's not in his prime anymore, but he's still a name player. A lot of veteran savvy, a lot of experience. Oh, geez, why don't the Nets sign him? So now they have Harden, Durant, Irving, Aldridge, and Blake Griffin. Wow. Yeah, that's not an impressive lineup at all. And DeAndre Jordan. And then the Lakers fall ass backwards into getting Andre Drummond, one of the best rebounders in the league. When LeBron comes back, when Davis comes back healthy, anybody who thinks that it's not going to be the Lakers and the Nets in the finals is an absolute moron. And Adam Silver needs to correct this. He needs to fix his league so it's at least halfway competitive. There's got to be some way to stop this from happening. These super teams are not making the NBA any more enjoyable to watch. People say, it's going to bring viewers in for the finals. What about all the other rounds of your damn extended playoffs where over half the league makes the playoffs? Who's going to watch these games? when their teams have no chance in hell of advancing. We all know the two teams are going to be in the finals.
And guess what? We don't care about either one.
No, it's ridiculous. It's almost like soccer, where you pay $500 billion for Ronaldo or whatever, and it puts you over the top. If we're this bad a shape in terms of basketball talent, where you've got 5 or 6 or 7 guys that are going to make the difference in the entire league, then your league is weak.
Yeah. And it goes back to your one and dones. You're coming out of high school. There's no development of players. How many guys come and go in the NBA and that don't pan out because they don't have any discipline? They weren't developed. They don't know how to play the game.
Guaranteed contracts again.
Ugh, the TV money that the NBA got from ESPN put stupid money out there, and to play a game, and you have all these max contracts because there's all this money out there that has to be spent. Well, guess what? That TV deal is coming to an end, and it was so bad, so overpaid.
The day of reckoning is coming.
It is. You are going to see all of these salaries come crashing back to reality.
All right, kids. That's it for segment 2. We're going to give you a quick promo here, and we'll be right back with segment 3. Be talking some NFL. Hello, all you denizens out there in podcast land. I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
And we're not your typical ranting and raving sports podcast here at Sports Frenzy 2.0. New episodes drop every Thursday, by the way. We're extraordinary ranters and ravers when it comes to sports, NBA, NHL, NFL, anything under the sun that involves sports. We're going to cover it. We're going to rip it apart. So be sure to tune in on Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, and of course, our home base, Spotify and Anchor. And just remember, like Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore said in Apocalypse Now, I love the smell of Sports Frenzy in the morning. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Sports Frenzy 2.0, March the 31st, 2021. Welcome back. We are on Google, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, as well as our home base, Spotify and Anchor. New episodes are dropping every Thursday for you. Right now, we're dropping some NFL knowledge on you. I will now defer to the conquistador, Dave Height.
All right, kids. You got your 17-game NFL schedule. Owners voted it in with one opposing vote. Our beloved Bears owner, George McCaskey, voted against adding the extra game. Now, we'd all like to think it's because he cares about his players' health, that he wanted to do right by them. But let's face it, he doesn't want to have another embarrassing loss on the schedule. He doesn't want to be able to finish under 500. That's the only reason. It's sad but true.
Yeah, I can hear the tracks are rumbling. The train is coming. The train wreck that is the Chicago Bears.
Those tremors you're feeling as Papa Bear rolling over in his grave, the way his grandson is effing it up.
I can see it. 5-11, 6-10 coming for the next 7 or 8 years.
Oh, it's brutal.
Because they're not. And once they fire Pace, once they fire Nagy, they're not bringing in anybody of top caliber quality. They don't pay that type of money. They don't want to give up that kind of control.
And nobody wants to deal with this fiasco that they've created.
No. So yeah, we do have the 17 games over 18 weeks now. I find it a little bit odd that they didn't go to 19 weeks with 2 buys, because that would have given them more TV exposure, more ad revenue.
No, let's face it, they didn't want to give any more money to the players. They don't care about the health, so that's why you still only have 1 buy.
Yeah, at least 17 over 18 will give us that holy grail that we've all been hoping for. The Monday after the Super Bowl is an official holiday because it's President's Day.
Only if you're a government worker.
Start letting everybody off. At least we're getting close, right?
Ish.
Now, here's a question that I want to bring up on this. How is this going to impact the record books? Now you're going to have single season records, especially. Maybe not so much overall career records, but single season records, that's an extra game for more passing yards, more rushing yards.
Yeah, but it's one game versus the last time they added
2 games.
They added 2 games.
Correct. Yeah.
And really, how many records have actually fallen?
Yeah, it's been more about loosening the rules and letting the offenses do more than it is actually about the extra games or
Right.
Right.
And you don't have your specialized receiver who got everything. You don't have your specialized running back who got everything. It's spread out a whole lot more than it ever used to be. So it's really not going to be that big of an impact overall.
Yeah, you're right. In a way, it's almost like baseball where you're not going to have anybody win 25 games anymore as a pitcher because of the way they manage the load.
Yeah, you're not going to have a 300-game winner. You're not going to have a 300-save pitcher.
Yeah, the Bears, brought in Damian Williams now, so you've got 3 running backs basically.
Yeah.
So even though Montgomery is the lead back, now they've got more guys back there to give him a rest,
weapons.
spell him. Just means, less chances for him to, put up big numbers.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to pay him, and then they'll release him, and he'll go somewhere and be an all-pro and get a ring.
There you go. So now you're probably wondering, how is this going to impact the schedule and the home games, away games? Well, the NFL actually kind of got this one right. So, yeah, some teams are going to have extra home games, but they're going to alternate. This year, the AFC will get the extra home game. 2022, the NFC will get the extra home game, and then it'll alternate. And how that's going to be played, since, you're supposed to have your balanced schedule, they're going to wind up doing NFC East, AFC East, West, West, North, North, South, South. And so your number 1 finisher will play the 1 finisher accordingly. So you're going to have Washington taking on the Buffalo Bills as your example. And if you're a Bears fan, you're going to wind up having to go out to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. So at least they get a nice Vegas vacation out of that one. Looking on the bright side.
And then, of course, we got the new TV deal coming, where Amazon's going to take over Thursday night games exclusively. ESPN Plus gets a Sunday ticket. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm not a big fan of taking things off of free TV and putting them on streaming or pay TV, especially now that I keep hearing sneaky rumors that Peacock Premium and Paramount Plus, since they're affiliated with NBC and CBS respectively, are going to, down the road, consider putting games on those services.
Yeah, you're alienating a lot of your fan base by pulling this streaming crap. Have Amazon or paying the rat Disney for ESPN Plus, because it's not going to be cheap. So it's all a bunch of crap. It's a horrible money grab that they should be ashamed of, trying to alienate everybody.
The NFL is never ashamed of anything. They're the biggest game in town. So they're going to do what they want until people stop paying to go see them or paying to watch them on TV or, stop buying the jerseys.
And that's not going to happen. Well, it might happen if you don't get to see your favorite players.
Yeah, but here's the one thing where MLB's got a black cloud hovering over them after this year because it looks like there could be a lockout or a strike. Now we've got labor peace in the NFL that's going to extend here for years and years.
Yeah, the CBA ends in 2030?
Sounds right, yeah. So
and then the next sticking point, the NFL wants that 18th game.
We'll see. That could be a ways down the road, but it would make for a more balanced schedule.
It would, but then you have to throw in another bye week,
Right.
and you definitely have to get rid of another preseason game.
And again, you hear all sorts of different rumors and rumblings and theories. There's people out there that think the NFL wants to put as many games on during the week as humanly possible. So they're, because during the COVID situation, when games got delayed, they saw the ratings of the games that were delayed till Tuesday, or when they had to run double headers. I think the Monday night double header would be the way to go. I think that works. If you want to run more games outside of the typical Sunday window, I think if you run the 7 and 10 double headers on Monday nights.
Well, how about we go with an early Sunday morning game?
Well, that's
despite it being
that's what the overseas games are.
Forget the overseas crap.
You can't do it because the people on the West Coast, who we know that's all they care about is the West Coast, they won't be able to get up to see it because it'll be on at like 5 a.m. for them.
Wah, too bad. I'm tired of having to stay up past midnight watching a late game because we have to pander.
That's the hypocrisy of the whole thing. Yeah, nobody cares about the fact that people on the East Coast, we've got the championship game for NCAA hoops coming up, and you know damn well that thing's going to run until 11:30 midnight on the East Coast. People have to go to work in the morning on Tuesday. So number one, either move it off of Monday night or start the game earlier. All right, Deshaun Watson. We got to bring this up because we skipped him last week. We gave him a week off, but we got to come back and hammer him.
We were waiting to see what was going to happen, and more women have joined the lawsuit.
We're up to 21 now, although 18 now have defended him. But that makes 39 different massage therapists involved with Deshaun Watson.
Wow.
Why do you need 39 different massage therapists?
Because he's searching around for his happy ending.
And then we've got rumors that he's deleting Instagram messages. He's trying to settle with certain victims. But then on the other side, the lawyer for the victims,
he's a scuzzball in and of himself.
Well, he's saying he's not going to file criminal charges because he doesn't trust the police to handle the cases properly because he's got issues with the police.
It's all a big nightmare. You actually need to have these victims get their own individual lawyers and get away from this Busby character. And you've got one...
But then you got Rusty Harden on the other side.
Who's just as big a dirtball as Busby. So, take that with a grain of salt. You do have one woman who's anonymously gave Sports Illustrated an exclusive interview about her experience with Mr. Watson. And she did not paint a great picture of him, and she has so far not joined the lawsuit, so I don't know if she will. But there's a pattern of behavior here, kids, where he's looking for something.
And it'll be interesting to see if anybody, whether it's the Texans sticking with him or any other team, actually following through on the trade rumors from a couple months ago before all this came out. Are they still going to try to get him, or has his image been tarnished too much?
It's the NFL. It's all about winning.
Yeah. So, all right, kids, that's segment 3. We're going to take a quick break, give you a promo. We'll be back with our final segment in just a second.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. This is the conquistador, Dave Height.
Along with the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And welcome to Sports Frenzy 2.0, the podcast. We'll drop every Thursday morning, covering all sports, including our favorite teams, the Bears, White Sox, and Blackhawks. We'll take on the topics and give you our opinions, giving you the lowdown that the other pundits don't have the balls to say. So, in the immortal words of Stuart Smalley,
we're good enough, we're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like us. Hey kids, welcome back. Final segment, Sports Frenzy 2.0 podcast. We're here on March the 31st, 2021. Get some NASCAR for you. The magnificent Bristol dirt race that just happened the other day. But before we get into that, let me explain to you, as I've been doing throughout this whole episode, some of our contests that we run here among our 8 panelists. With NASCAR, what we do is we limit everybody to 3 picks per driver over the regular season, which is the first 26 races. Once we get to the playoffs, if we make the playoffs, and there's a possibility some of us might not, you get a reset and you get to pick any driver up to one more time in the last 10 races. So right now, this season, we're not doing too good because we kind of tightened things up a little bit. And you've got to be in the top 10 in points instead of what we used to do, which was the top 12. And right now, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster.
You don't have the usual suspects winning at this point.
No, Kyle Busch has not been good. The people that you would
Harvick's been struggling.
Yeah, the people that you would expect to be good at certain tracks aren't good at those tracks, but they're winning at other tracks. And then you got a couple young pups winning. Kyle Larson's come back with a vengeance, and he's been a force. I could argue he's been, next to probably Denny Hamlin, the best driver out there so far
this year. Yeah.
So at the dirt race here, Bristol, Joey Logano won. But, of course, our picks were terrible because we went with the odds-on favorites. Christopher Bell among our picks, Kyle Larson,
5 of us with Larson, and your dirt track experts, as everybody said. And it was Mr. Bell who got loose, spun, and caused a multi-car accident, knocking him out of the race and taking Larson out of contention, putting him 5 laps back. And then Larson got involved in another one later on.
Yeah, I think it was 2 more. I think he got,
at least.
His car at one point, there was nothing except the exposed engine on the front.
It looked like a modified.
Right. So we all took pretty big hits. Technically, we didn't, based on how we run our competition, but, you know, I was so proud of myself with Austin Dillon at Daytona getting through and getting huge points at a super speedway, which is normally a disaster.
Yeah.
Over the last 4 races, you add up all the points I've got over the last 4 races, Austin Dillon still got me more at Daytona than I've gotten combined out of the last 4 races.
Yeah, it's not been good. But the racing on the dirt was good. That was fun to watch. It was enjoyable. And towards the end, getting ready for the last segment, they made the announcement, spring 2022, Bristol will be back on the dirt.
Yeah, you can't just do it 1 year. You got to try it for a couple years.
Yeah, it's something different, and that's what they need.
Yeah.
Something different.
And that's what we talked about this. That's what this season's schedule is supposed to be. More road courses, new road courses, the dirt at Bristol.
Yeah. And let's give it to the guys who've never raced on dirt. With Martin Truex won the truck race, his first race on the dirt, and he was running really well in the Cup. Daniel Suarez, never been on dirt, had a fantastic outing.
Yep. So I love it. Let's do it again next year. That's fine with me.
Yeah. Let's, you know what? Throw some dirt at Martinsville, too.
And I'll tell you right now, you can book it for next year. I'll take Larson again. I mean, it was just a fluke. It was just a fluke. He worked his way up. I told you when he was starting from the back because of an engine change, I was like, how on Bristol do you make up that kind of ground when you're already starting half a lap back?
It's because
and he was up in the top 10 within 40 laps.
Yeah. Well, Bell started what, 20th, 21st?
I think he was a little more. I think he was 15th. I think he was up a little bit more than that.
But still, they both made up a lot of ground quickly, and
yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, Bell was 3rd, and Larson was
fun.
5th when they had that wreck, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on. We got some political kind of sports stuff to talk about, so this is time for the Maestro and the Conquistador to go off on a rant here. I'm going to start off with a poll that Yahoo Sports did, and eventually this is going to turn around into the Olympics. So bear with us here for a minute as we lay the foundation for this. Yahoo did a poll this week. Now, keep in mind, the election's over. The election's been over for months. The transition is over. But Yahoo did a poll just this past week, and we still got 34.5% of sports fans watching less sports because they're sick and tired of political and social messaging during the broadcasts. And you saw it this past weekend in March Madness as they played at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. There was a unity court and an equality court. People are tired of being hit over the head with this crap. They really are. We don't want it. Again, it's about the whole shut up and sing mentality. And I know that burns liberals to a crisp. They hate hearing that because they think everybody has the right to say what they want when they want unless they don't agree with you.
Right.
I still want to know, when I watch NBA warm-ups, what happens if a player doesn't want to wear a shirt that says this league was built on black history, or they don't want to bow, or kneel for the national anthem? What happens to them? I guarantee they're going to be booted off the team and cut because they're not a good teammate. Well, who says that their viewpoints are any worse than the other people's viewpoints? That's the problem. People who, they preach equality, they preach unity, they are anything but about unity and equality.
It's all about dividing everybody at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
and that's something that the media continually perpetuates.
And now going to the Olympics, the United States Olympic Committee has decided that there will be no sanctions for any athlete who wants to have a racial and social demonstration during the trials of the Olympics, and it'll probably carry over to the Olympics themselves. So that means fist pumps, kneeling for the anthem is all okay. So I bet purple-haired Megan Rapinoe, who I can't stand with a passion, let me tell you something. Somebody who colors their hair purple, I got news for you. If they do it and they keep it like that, they want attention for themselves. They're egomaniacs. I don't want to hear that they're making, oh, this is just how I like it. This is just my own personal thing. No, you want people to pay attention to you. That's why you do that, and then you scream and you whine and cry about how you want this and you want that, and you're not being treated fairly. It's so easy to pick out the people that want dissent and want chaos versus the ones that want unity and equality. And I don't care what you think, she's not one of the ones that wants everybody to be together as one.
There you go. Well stated.
Now, the USA men's soccer team, of course, doesn't help the cause because they failed to qualify for the Olympics for the third straight time.
Oh, they just suck. USA men's soccer is an absolute abomination.
Yeah, and I think we've had this discussion in the past where the problem is they still, even though they suck balls, they bring in more money than the women's program.
How? Why? The women are so much better.
Yeah. And we had a discussion last week about problems with the men's program versus the women's program when it comes to quality. And you want everybody to have the same facilities. You want everybody to have the same chances. But at the same time, I don't want to see programs or sports dragged down because they have to hold up like a Title IX, so to speak. Like the WNBA is a great example. The WNBA is losing money. They're bleeding money.
Yeah.
And the NBA has to keep funneling money.
More and more money to keep them afloat.
How is that fair to the NBA that they have to keep the WNBA afloat when nobody watches, nobody cares. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they don't.
That's just like with soccer. The women's soccer program is keeping the men's afloat. But why everybody wants to pump more and more money into the men's program is beyond me. Why they get paid more is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They can't play. The women should be making a hell of a lot more money because they're so much more damn successful.
And that's the thing. That's what you want in all sports. If you're successful, you should get more money.
Yeah.
If you perform, you should. We've talked about that in all sports. Performance-based payments.
Yeah.
If you're good, if you're great, you get paid. If you're not, no guarantees.
Yeah. Well, just like in hockey. Most of the time, the women's hockey program, when it comes to the amateur, they do a hell of a lot better than the men's amateur hockey for the United States.
Yep. I'm sure we'll have more rants and raves about this kind of stuff down the road.
Speaking of hockey and the Olympics, I don't know how many people turned it down, but Stan Bowman now, the Blackhawks GM, who, being a Hawks fan, I'm not exactly his biggest supporter. He is now the general manager of USA Hockey for the Olympics. And his assistant is, I can't think of his name offhand, the Minnesota Wild's GM. So the two of them will be putting together your United States hockey team for the Olympics. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, moments of silence here on the sports side of things. I have one very, very important one for me personally. The man that made me love college football passed away, Howard Schnellenberger, the man that brought the University of Miami football program back to prominence. Well, it probably never was in any shape of prominence to begin with, but he started the 20-year run of greatness that everybody knows, multiple national champions, leading the way for Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson, dozens and dozens of top draft picks, Hall of Famers. He helped make the U what they are today. So Howard Schnellenberger, coach, will be missed.
Yep. I've got a few longtime NBA coach, Stan Albeck. 40-some years in coaching of college and then into the NBA, has passed away at 89. Major League Baseball, Twins bench coach Mike Bell succumbed to cancer at 46, way too young. It's a shame.
Yep.
And then Yankees infielder Bobby Brown passed away. 96 years old. Hell of a run. And then in the NHL, St. Louis Blues defenseman legendary Bobby Plager passes away at 78.
Well, it's a bad transition, but it's one we do all the time. We go from honoring those who have left us with our moments of silence to those we kind of wish would leave us because they're so stupid. It's time for the Red Foreman Dumbasses of the Week.
I got to start off with Roger Goodell. Coming off getting his 17th game, he has to go out and announce that he fully expects to have the stands full for this coming NFL season. Fans in the stands, it's good to hope for it, but really, don't say anything about it until it could possibly be a reality because you just come off sounding like a complete moron.
Don't jinx it, man. Don't jinx it. I got a couple in baseball. Francisco Lindor rejects the Mets offer of 10 years and $325 million. Are you freaking kidding me?
How greedy are you to play a damn game?
How many blue-collar workers in New York are going to love this guy?
Yeah, no kidding.
And speaking of, people that don't have any idea of the value of money, Tom Ricketts, who will be my dumbass of the week probably every week for the next 4 or 5 months, owner of the Cubs. He's basically alienating one of the all-time great Cubs in Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo's had to cut off negotiations here because I think he's disappointed beyond belief that he can't get a decent long-term deal after taking less money than market value year after year for this team. And then, of course, they pulled a Chris Bryant on Nico Horner, put him down to AAA so they could delay arbitration for another year.
Have they learned nothing?
Yeah, not going to sit well with the fans, especially when they start trading these guys here back after the All-Star break.
So, and I've got one more dumbass. LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva comes out and says, "Oh, we now have concluded our investigation and know the cause of Tiger Woods' crash. But we're not going to tell you because of privacy concerns. We've reached out to Mr. Woods and his representatives asking permission to release our findings." What the hell are you talking about? Anybody else, you would announce what happened on a public road. It's a matter of public record. I mean, my God, you just said, oh, it was an unfortunate accident. You didn't even bother with the toxicology to find out if he was impaired, because Woods is on record as saying, I don't know what happened. I don't remember driving. And he has a history of driving while impaired. This whole thing is a frickin' cover-up.
Yep. If he's not driving impaired, he's driving while his ex-wife is chasing him down the road with a golf club.
So, I mean,
privilege again. You know,
anybody else who is not a celebrity with this guy, you would know what happened.
Yeah, and you know the Masters are coming up, and they're going to be all wearing red shirts and kissing Tiger's ass. Look at the history of the man. He's not a good person. Get over the idol worshiping of him. He is not. He's right there, as I've been ranting for every week since we started this. He's up there with Patino or down there with Patino. They're not good people. They're despicable. Look at the evidence. Look at the facts. I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
We hope you have a great week. We will see you back here next Wednesday. Episodes drop every Thursday morning. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll talk to you later.